Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Prevue's webinar on empowering women in the meetings industry, an open conversation. I'm Prevue editor Lisa Simonson, and I'll be your moderator today, so welcome. We are privileged to have with us today an experienced panel of planners. Samantha Marie, Founder and Chief Experience Officer of Omniera Events and Travel. Megan Warzeniak, Sales and Strategy Director at Streamline Events, Inc., and Tracy Wallach, Event Planner at JM Family Enterprises. Thank you for joining us. But before we get to the discussion, please take a moment, attendees, to let us know where you're joining us from. We'd love to know your home cities. So people, Cooperstown, New York, oh, terrific. Dallas, Texas, yay. Chicago, wow. This is incredible. There's somebody from Porto. Oh, I know who that is.
Portugal.
Philadelphia, yay. Thank you, everybody.
Oakland, gotta.
All right. Thank you so much. And hello from Nashville. So also in the chat, please feel free to contribute questions for our panelists. We'll get to as many as we can. A couple of housekeeping notes. This webinar is being produced in partnership with Caribe Royale Orlando, so we thank them for their support. In addition, all attendees will receive one CEU from the Events Industry Council. So another thing is the webinar is being recorded, so don't worry about missing anything. We will send you a copy of the recording if you need it. And there will be a white paper from today's webinar in the chat for your downloading convenience. So thank you. We do, to start things off before we get to the panelists, we have a quick poll for you just to get your perspective on some of the issues we'll be discussing. So we'll be bringing the questions up one at a time. How long have you been a planner? If you could just let us know, just started, 1 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, 11 to 20 years, or 20 plus years. So go ahead and fill that out, please. Very good, a very even cross section, basically a couple who just started, 1 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 20 seems to be the most, and 20 plus years, good representation. Welcome, everybody. Good to know that. So, another second question. Do you think men earn more money than women in the same position in this industry? Yes or no? So go ahead and answer that one. And we see that yes is the overwhelming response with 80% and 20% say no. And those are the men. No, just kidding. Okay, third question, everybody. Do you think men are more likely to get promoted in this industry? Yes or no? Yes, again, is the majority, but not as much as the salary question. Okay, final question. Have you witnessed sexual harassment or have you been a victim of sexual harassment in a professional environment? Yes or no? So pretty even, Stephen. Witnessed, maybe it wasn't you, but you've heard of it, and no is 53%. So that's actually really encouraging and good. Great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. So we're going to get to the issues now. We're all here to discuss. Prevue recently published our annual Women in the Industry survey, which it's in our most recent issue and also the white paper, and was also the basis for some of our questions. So we're going to start with the topic of breaking barriers. And we're looking for advice for women trying to advance in their careers. So in our survey, 57% of women in the industry believe a lack of advancement is related to their gender. Is this a factor, and how would you advise these women? Megan, would you like to start us on that?
I'll be really honest. I'm an OG in the sense that I've been in the industry, my goodness, 25 years. So if I go back to that time frame in the 80s, seriously, there was definitely a glass ceiling. You got to a certain level, and that's where you stayed, and you were perceived as a contributor and a function of what you did.
Mhm.
I think as we have evolved, and especially with the multi-generational group that is in the workforce now, and I have to say millennials have pushed the envelope, which I'm very happy about this, is that we really have progressed as far as being elevated in our positions. However, I will say this dominating in that C-suite, women tend to be HR or marketing. We're seeing more women in the C-suite as far as your CEOs as well as CROs or CTOs. That's something that needs to improve, but I think we're in the right trajectory.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you. So, going on to a related question, a great majority of our respondents also feel that a quality like assertiveness is perceived differently for women than for men. Do you agree? And I think Samantha, you wanted to chime in on this.
Yes, obviously it is definitely perceived differently, men versus women. We're supposed to be the kind and caring and easygoing, which is great and still things that we have to do. But I think the continuation of us speaking up and having a voice, the more that we do that as individuals, as a group, it's going to become more normalized and accepted. So I think for us, being able to stand up for ourselves if we see something wrong or something we don't like, or for even if we have another idea, don't be afraid to raise your hand. I know there's statistics out there too that if you're in a board meeting and say you have 10 or 15 people and half are male and half are female, the conversation is typically male dominated. So I definitely encourage yourselves and others to speak up and have a voice because not only do your opinions count, we typically have pretty good ones too.
Agree. And I don't know if somebody wants to comment. I just had like a follow-up question for this. As
Yeah,
far
I
as
think
tone of voice and, you know,
Yeah.
phraseology, what do you think, Megan?
Well, the thing, assertiveness for women, I've been a direct person all my life, so I get battle with this all the time. Um, I think it's misunderstood. And as women, in a if you were in a male dominated environment, you're always trying to prove your worth. Um, the biggest thing here is just really to be able to back up facts, really build that trust within that community. To Samantha's point, as far as being heard, that's the voice that comes through. You are coming forward with confidence and knowing what you're doing.
Well,
I
that's
have to agree with you on that one, Megan, for sure. Work for JM Family. We have Southeast Toyota, which is one of our subsidiaries underneath our umbrella. And it's very male dominant world, or it used to be about, I'd say a good 10, 15 years ago when I worked in that environment with majority men. I wasn't perceived as assertive. It was more, I think it was my tone. It was my assurance and how I came across very positive, knowing my information, and to your point, making sure when I get a seat at the table, it's having the facts based right in front of me so that I can support why I may answer something a certain way. When I started back working with all women in a department, it was a little tougher at the beginning, and I had to dial back my personality for me specifically. So it was the number one thing I always say is get to know the people you work with. Trust building is great, but get to know people on a personal level, because when you do, and you do have tough conversations and you have to sort of put your foot down on certain things, like if you're on site in an event as a meeting planner, they will respect you a lot more than if you just come in, you don't know them, and they're not aware of you and how you manage things. So I think, Megan, you were saying trust. For me, it's definitely trust, getting to know people personally. It's my facial expressions. I like to say I do not have a poker face. I have learned over the years with my mentor how to just have that appearance of a sort of sense of calmness and being very direct, but in a way with a smile. A smile says 1,000 words that you don't have to say. I think another part of it too is silence. It's listening, and it's when I make a statement, I follow it up with silence. That'll give the opportunity for somebody to respond back, whether or not they have a follow-up question or, oh, I hear you. However, and I'm always open to feedback. And I think that's helped calm down my assertive behavior that I used to get tagged on a lot, or aggressive behavior was another one.
Yeah, to
No.
both your points, it's a little bit of how we still have to work harder as females than compared to males. So Megan brought up a great point, how yes, we need to have our facts. We're not able to just have a statement or give an opinion based on how we feel. We really need to show why we're coming from that direction and building those trust and relationships. It's still working a little bit harder than our male counterparts.
That's an excellent point. I just wrote that down. Thank you. So, awesome. So moving on from that, in our survey, more than half of our respondents felt that women face age discrimination disproportionately. Are you seeing this, or what do you think? I mean, I'm asking you what you think. I know we need data to back it up, but I mean, sometimes anecdotal information is very available and helps. Does anyone have a thought on that? Do you think women are perceived?
I haven't experienced that myself. However, it's a genuine fear. And it's a genuine fear with an aging, as far as those of us who are at the end of baby boomers and the beginning of Gen Xers.
Yeah.
Many colleagues who have been laid off due to lost their positions during the pandemic, or just what's happening right now is that people are the hiring now, things are correcting itself within corporations, and there's a lot of layoffs. They really do feel that age discrimination is coming to the forefront. And a lot of this is just competing. There's just again, the multi-generational labor pool kind of skews that. The one thing that needs to, where I think, if there's any question as far as how to combat that, is experience, wisdom. This is an industry that you can't book learn. It is all by mistakes. And
Many.
it's like that, this is not brain surgery. No one's gonna die. But you learn from your mistakes and you don't repeat them. And hopefully you're able to bestow that information and that wisdom on to the next, your colleagues and your teams.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
my,
go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say for myself, even though I'm not quite yet at the age where I have been exposed to that personally myself, I know that I'm getting there. I'm a Zennial, so I'm kind of between Gen Z and Millennial. So hopefully I can stave that off for a little while longer. But something that I also think will help, in addition to the experience that we develop over the years, is definitely keep ahead of trends, get new certifications, learn new things. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm slightly obsessed with learning. And depending on what departments we're in, marketing, for example, there's new things that are coming out all the time. So I think if we also keep they say it in meditation, beginner's mind, it'll keep us fresh and it'll keep us um, being able to still be marketable in the workforce.
Thank you. Well, that kind of goes along with the next question. What would you tell an older professional woman, either seeking employment or seeking to retain her current position? I think Tracy had a few thoughts on that.
Yes, for sure. I think just be open to learning. Like you said, Samantha, I'm a lifelong learner as well. We have a lot, we have multi-generations now. We just hired a couple people into our department and they are younger, which I love. I always say to myself, every event I do, I can do better the next time. So for somebody that is already in the workforce and has been, I'm 20 plus years, 26 years total in the company. I am one of the oldest in my department. And I attribute my success to being always open to learning, always open to growing. There is a reason why we're hiring our next generation into the hospitality industry, and they have so much they can teach us through their knowledge just in the everyday world. But they'll look at something that I've done and say, okay, Tracy, I love this. What if? And those what ifs are great because maybe what they're saying may not be something I'll do. I won't shut them down. I'll just say, I hear you. And what are your thoughts on this? And it's just a lot of collaboration. So I would think that is the biggest thing I would say, is just be willing to retain your current position, be willing to learn and grow. And 100% what Samantha said, lifelong learner. You can never learn enough in this industry. There's always room to learn and grow.
Thank
I
you.
think the other component, you guys have hit everything spot on. It's also about shifting your mindset.
Yes.
We tend to be executioner. That's a terrible word. We execute on the program. We
It's
create.
true.
We are the doers. We make the why happen. The thing is that we really need to focus on how do we sort of the mind shift, showing this, but also getting involved in deep strategy and really being able to support the why. Master, if you can, your financial acumen, get that, boost that up and be able to talk to the numbers, understand a P&L, what that means, what that budget means, that type of thing, and
Huge.
learn that language. That's what kind of keeps you in the, I want to say, in the forefront.
And if I could just add to excellent Megan, I would also say don't focus on your age. Age is just a number. I know it's hard to say. I'm proud that in JM Family, our tenured associates, we're celebrating some that are 52, 53 years in the company. And yes, they're above the baby boomers in a couple cases. The reason why, and I've asked a lot of people overall, not just in the industry, and the biggest thing is I'm not my number. And I think that's huge to point out. Don't look at yourself and say, "Oh, I'm 65 years old. Am I going to be replaced?" Look at yourself and say, "I'm 65 years young. I could do everything as well as someone else." However, but just don't focus on the number. The number will bring you down.
That's a good point. And perhaps even don't listen for it
Yes.
when people are talking to you. So, we're going back to salary disparity and our survey, as well as what we just saw our listeners saying. 63% of our respondents said they believe they were paid less than their male counterparts. And there are hard statistics in other studies demonstrating that women are being paid less than men for doing the same job. Have you seen any improvement in this area? And I think Megan wanted to start on that.
Yeah, I think that overall, again, I've had decades. I think that definitely is improving. But we need to be very conscientious. 80% of the population in this industry is women. So we need to support ourselves. We need to uplift. The industry is woman powered, however, we're not necessarily woman led. And again, that goes back to being, being logistical, but have the strategy and understanding the why. So,
Mhm.
it's just sort of braining up.
Can I
And
add that to that also saying don't, I shouldn't use the word don't, never start with a negative. Um, know your self-worth.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to walk into your boss and ask for a raise. I made the biggest mistake for, I'd say, a good 12 years into my career where I was afraid to ask for a raise, a just because raise, or a, what do they call it? Equal raise within your industry. You've been in your department a long period of time. I'm losing the word. But really, just don't be afraid to ask. What's the worst that can happen? no, we can't afford it right now, then you're in the same place you were before. So ask, and I think maybe that's where men may come in a little bit better. They don't have the fear of asking as much as women do. They also don't mind, we know, applying for a job that they don't qualify for, but maybe you have one or two tasks versus women that think they need to match everything 100%. Biggest thing is don't be afraid to ask.
Good.
A personal experience, it's like one of these things, you start salary low, and as you keep on kind of going, and when you're in a position, do make those changes and take risks and take other jobs. Don't turn
Yes.
down opportunities. But the big thing is, and this is just personal experience, I went in, I was sitting at the same salary for a long time, and I knew that the gentleman next to me was getting paid a lot more. And I sat down with the general manager, and I basically, this was in a hotel industry, and I said, I don't want to go. I know that I am valuable and I will get an offer, and I can get an offer that's larger than what you're giving me. And when I come to you and I said I'm going to be leaving and you ask why, and it's because it's more money, then all of a sudden you're going to give me more money to stay, because everybody understands what the cost is associated with having to train and hire and train and do all those things. Because I'm in the sales aspect, there's a ramp up of that. So I said, and then basically I said, and I will resent you because you never paid me what I was worth, and you're going to resent me because you're never going to think that you're going to get more out of me because you've given me more money. I ended up getting one of the biggest raises I ever had with that,
Nice.
and I was being paid more than the gentleman that was next to me.
There we go.
I wasn't expecting that ending, but yay. Fantastic. So the next question, what should a woman do if she knows for a fact or strongly suspects she's being paid less for the same job? I mean, you've already covered it, but does anyone have anything else to add? What should you do? Maybe it goes back to being assertive and perceived.
Write out what tasks you do, what you've done different. So for me, I started off my year where we have our performance review. You write down what you're going to do. If I've excelled above that, it's coming in saying, here's where I was at, here's what I've done. Everything to me is about the numbers. It's about showing your worth, the ROI. How are you creating the ROI? Take that to your boss and see what happens.
Good point. I like that. So now we're going to get into an area that faces a lot of women, work-life balance, life-work balance. Much of the above, including a lack of advancement and salary disparity, results from women's unique challenges when it comes to work-life balance. Have you seen more cooperation from employers when it comes to encouraging rather than penalizing women striving for a work-life balance? Tracy, I think you wanted to start on that.
I would say I'm very fortunate to work for a great company, and they talk about that all the time, work-life balance. We have learning and organizational development team. We have classes taught on that. And I think it comes to you individually. I for the longest time found that there was no such thing as work-life balance. To a certain degree, I still feel that way, but I think it's based on the individual. And I think it's just you personally, what do you want out of life? I always look at things as if something were to happen to me tomorrow and I was no longer here, I would be replaced in a heartbeat. So why am I going to put priority over my work life versus my personal? So for me, balancing and what I'm starting to do is on a Sunday beginning week, looking at what's on my plate personally and then looking what's on my plate professionally and asking myself, is there something that can give here? And usually it's on the work side. It's, I might have to do 40 hours this week, which by the way, in my field, in our department, it's unheard of right now. We are a little bit heavier, but then I also make sure to turn my phone off. I won't answer emails if it's not an event coming up, like an immediate event. I just want to answer emails after a certain time. And I found meditation works very, very well first thing in the morning. Meditation, journaling, prayers for those that do that. Even if you don't have a prayer for, belief, even for your children, your family, whatever. But just I found that helps to balance that work life.
That sounds great.
Mm.
And how do you handle this balance? what is most realistic for you? I have Tracy down for that. But does anyone else want to chime in?
For myself, it's priorities.
Mhm.
So we all have different priorities, and we need to be very clear about what those are, not just to ourselves, but our families, our boss, the people that we work with, whatever your number one, number two, number three is, and don't apologize and don't feel bad for that. If, if your family is number one and your work is second, that's fine. If your health is number one and your job is second, that's fine. But decide what those are for you personally and make when you have a decision, whether it's like, okay, I can either do more of this or more of that, or something has to give, go back to what your priorities and what your goals are, and don't feel bad. Don't make apologies for that. We all have different needs, and there's actually this thing called the 8 dimensions of well-being. Your working career is part of that, your spirituality is part of that, your physical health is part of that. And while all of those are important, it's what do we need to work on, or what do we need to nurture also to make ourselves feel healthy and happy both in our work and our home life.
Good point.
That's great,
Like-
Samantha.
I like how
Um,
you said no apologies.
No apologies. Don't feel bad about your priorities because those are yours.
It's kind of it's a very tumultuous time because companies now are wanting people to come back to work. You know, that we had the one thing that was wonderful about the pandemic. I stopped wearing high heel shoes. My feet loved it. And as well as parenting, both male and female, to be able to contribute to the family, that was really very beneficial. Now with coming back into the workforce and having to go into work and have that commuting time start as, I mean, I don't remember, I can't, sometimes I think about what did, raising kids, how did I do it? Because it's, you just get in a frame of mind, but it really comes from the top down, as far as what the culture is within the company itself. Again, Tracy, I'm just so glad that you work for an agent, company that is so positive. I too, within the agency, family does come first, but we all understand what our priorities are, and it's really having a great team mentality in which someone knows when if somebody has to depart for a moment or take a pause, there's people here that can fill in that gap. So I really think it comes from overall leadership on how that can contribute to your life balance.
That sounds good. So we talked about how millennials kind of pushed the idea of, not killing themselves for 80 hours a week, perhaps. I remember when that happened, I was like, yes. But what advice would you give younger women who have yet to face these issues, maybe? Tracy, did you want to weigh in on that?
Has to face the issues of work-life balance and how to
Yeah.
manage that.
Like, let's say they don't have children, or they're just,
Mhm.
it hasn't come up yet. They have the flexibility, maybe, the financial flexibility to work late or whatever it might be. They don't have to
Right.
worry about a mortgage, maybe, whatever it might be.
Right. I will tell you, I have shared much feedback to the younger generation within my department of that from the beginning. I said it clear with them from the beginning. We will love you whether you spend 40 hours or 50 hours doing something. If you need help, ask. The biggest thing, delegation. I will tell you, that's huge. I just shared that with somebody in my department. She is an incredible planner. And I said to her, the best way to move up in a company sometimes is to learn how to delegate. And we as planners have a struggle with that, or at least I know I have. I can only speak for myself. I have in the past become very controlled on what I wanted to give pieces of because I could do it better than anybody else. That was my old mentality. Now what I realize is when you're working with a team and you're thinking you can do better, that does come across your team, which then alienates your team to a certain degree. Distrust forms. And you guys can all imagine it looks like a lot of people have been in the industry for the long time. So the 1 to 5 years, you don't have to you may feel like you always have to prove yourself to everybody, but the best way to do that sometimes is make yourself collaborative. Sit back, listen more, learn more, and learn to delegate. Delegate is not a bad word. I used to think it was a bad word because if I delegate, that means I'm not doing my job, and someone else may perceive it as, I'm just giving away my work instead of doing it. Find a good, healthy balance. But I would say just definitely learn that word. It's a very important word.
Thank you. I love that. Something to think about. So because we're talking about that, we're going to be, somebody said it starts at the top. So let's talk about fostering a safe environment. So to go back to sexual harassment, our survey was evenly split between those who hadn't experienced this, and so was today's survey. So are you seeing any of this? Has it gotten less tolerated, or has it gotten more subtle? What do you think? Anybody want to weigh in on that one? I know,
Goodness.
yeah, go ahead, Megan. I know
I
some
don't,
of you that I
I
haven't.
really have not
Yeah, well,
experienced it.
that's
It's
great. I'm
not,
glad to
yeah,
hear that.
yeah.
But it's really hard to talk about women's issues in a professional situation without bringing
Right.
this topic up. So I think, Tracy, you wanted to talk about, is there anything women can do in this situation that they find themselves in?
Right. So I would think in your corporation, I don't know if you have an HR department. I know with ours, we have a private number. It's a number we can dial if we have any kind of harassment whatsoever, male, female. We can dial this number. We share with it confidentially what has happened, and it is elevated. And in some cases, I believe, and don't quote me, it's elevated all the way to the CEO level, depending upon what the challenge is. But I would assume it starts with our HR department. So I would maybe find out from, if you're in a business, obviously find out, do you have a safe space, a safe person that you can speak to? Mentoring for me, I have a great mentor. There are a lot of conversations I have with my mentor when I come up with challenges, and it's confidential for him and he will elevate it to a certain degree if needed. And I think that's a great way too. So find out what your resources are if you're working in a corporation. If something should come up, how you can handle it. And then if you're not and you own your own business, well, I think, Megan, you brought up top up. It's the responsibility of the owner down to show a safe space for that kind of feedback, and for it not to be taken personal, and for it to be handled very professionally. That's what I would say.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you. Very valuable. So you did speak about mentorship, so we wanted to get into that. Tracy, I think you wanted to talk about what are some good examples of mentorship for younger professional women?
So I have a great mentor. He's been in the company for 30 plus years. What's important about a mentor is, a lot of times on my side, when I joined my mentor, he gave me a lot of great books. And I think that's the greatest thing. If you like to read, some people don't. But what I love about my mentor is a lot of times I'll ask him his experiences. What is his experience working with people, different dynamics, different personalities. There is a great program, and of course, it escaped my mind the moment I said that, Emergenetics. It's a great tool where it shares with you individually who your people are in your department or those around you, what type of personality they have. And so oftentimes I find myself talking to my mentor about many personalities, like how are you dealing with multiple personalities, and he's the one that taught me about the trust. So I would say, as a new person coming into any industry whatsoever, find a mentor. A great way to do that is start with your bosses in your department, whether you're supervisor, manager, director, whatever your levels are. Start with somebody in your department and ask them, have you ever mentored before? Who have you mentored with, and why? And I would say, if you've got, like in JM Family, we have multiple departments across, we call them business units. There's JM Family, there's Southeast Toyota Finance, Jim Miranda and Associates, all throughout. And so mentoring, I like to mentor with different business units, and I don't look for the executives all the times. I won't look for a vice president or director. A lot of times I'll look for a mentor that's an administrative assistant to one of these levels, because they have so much vast experience working across business levels and across different people throughout the organization. So I would say, if you're beginning, definitely get a mentor. They're there to help you, they're there to support you, and they champion for you too. If there is a position open in your company, you may not be looking for that position. They may be behind the scenes championing for you, and your own personal cheerleader that says, have you thought of Tracy? And so I'd say that's an important thing to realize too. You may not want to have a job change. Megan, I think you said when it comes to job roles, I have made a lot of lateral moves in my career. It was lateral, and then I moved up, and that especially in the event side of it. So don't be afraid to do that, but trust your mentor. If you find a really great one, they can help further your career, or they can help you with challenges you may be seeing in your career and help you foresee things you may not even be aware of within your organization or about you too. So
Awesome.
It's
So,
kind of it's
yeah.
kind of interesting because you have your mentor, but then there's also a sponsor. So
yeah,
it's sort of like there's a really clear kind of separation of what both of those. I have mentors that I could have given birth to because they have taught me so much. It's just and again, it's that open communication. Um, and sponsors can be those who you work with, those who are your clients, as you are really developing and building your network. I mean, your network is your biggest value and biggest, this is, the golden spoon is maintaining those relationships and not having them be transactional. Because a lot of times it's like, people get a hold of somebody because they want something. Get a hold of somebody because you remember it's something you might see or do or read, brings like all of a sudden, what that reminds Samantha, I need to talk to you, send you something about wellness because I know this is your thing. Um, but or be able to say, you inspired me. These are things that build your network, that those mentorships, they come to you, and that knowledge you can go forward. The sponsorship component is the advocates who are in that higher positions, who can speak about you, about your performance, and they're the ones that can be your as Tracy, what you said, your champions. It's just critical. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. And I think Samantha, you actually had another perspective on this. Um, you're looking for a younger mentor, or somebody could be looking for a younger mentor to get their perspective, a different generation's perspective.
Yeah, exactly. It goes both ways. So I think no matter where we are in the industry, whether we're starting out or been here for multiple decades, there's always somebody that knows something more and has more experience and that might be older than we are. But at the same time, the younger generation has a different perspective. They have buying power. They have different needs and wants when they choose to align themselves with the company. A lot of times it's their values. So if we're happen to be older, finding somebody that's younger, new in the industry, getting their perspective, I think is very beneficial as well.
That does sound good.
And lead by example.
Yeah,
yes,
Mhm.
huge.
that's true. Well, that's the gold standard for a lot of different things. But yeah, thank you. So, we hear about the term leveling the playing field when it comes to issues of diversity. What do you think that means? And what would you say if someone complained that a group is being given special consideration? Tracy, I think you wanted to talk about that.
I'm actually gonna yield. I'd love to hear Samantha and Megan's perspective on this if either one of them want to speak about it.
Samantha.
Yeah, actually, I love this question. It's if for, DEIA, whatever that might mean to ourselves and our companies, being intentional about it. So if someone says like, oh, a group's getting special treatment, show why they're not. it's not difficult to see that in our country, some people that are not qualified are getting special treatment. But how are we going about when we intentionally, maybe it's booking certain vendors or hiring certain people or having a panel, just check in with yourself. For example, there was a conference I was working on about a year and a half ago, and then I realized it was not intentional that the three breakout keynote speakers were white males. And I said, oh, okay, well, that's not something that I wasn't paying attention to when I was going through this process. What can I do or what can we do to alter that? And it's not, booking somebody or hiring somebody because they're a certain nationality or gender or whatever it might be, but just being aware of that when you're going through the processes of hiring, booking, putting something together.
That's a good point. I mean, it doesn't even have to be issues of DEI. It could be because somebody's a friend. But the point is, I think you were saying, Samantha, to look for those who are qualified regardless. So I would think that would be very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also in diversity, it's not just it's not just culture and not just how you look. It's also about how do you receive and interpret information? Because everybody can how they work is by reading, someone else is about doing, the other could be completely auditory. So it's to be very conscientious about who the audience is.
And to your point, Megan, if you're unclear of the question, as what I hear you saying is, or what I'm hearing is, no one can take away what you hear, what you feel, what you see. So for me personally, I always try to put it on myself. What I think I'm hearing is so that the person can clarify. And I think oftentimes that helps to take away that concern.
Yeah, I think you both bring up a great point that we all learn things differently, communicate differently. There's neurodiversity. So when we work together in a group, how are people able to interact with each other to the best of their ability? Are we being mindful of having the introverts, getting them a voice and having them speak up more? Are we learning more visually or, auditory? There's different ways people learn and communicate. One of the things I always like to ask somebody when I'm going to be working with them or starting to is, what is your communication style? How do you like to receive information? What's your personality like? Because everybody's different. And then this way you can understand a little bit more of what's being asked of you or how that person is trying to get their information across.
And I would encourage you to talk to your supervisors about whether or not they have like the disc profile, their emergent genetics. I'm telling you, I have lived by those types of profiles. It really does help you to understand people in a more efficient manner so that you can face these challenges head on. So you can understand the person where they're coming from.
Exactly.
I like what you said about how you learn, because that is it's so it impacts everything that you're doing and how you're communicating with others. So one of the things I wanted to tell you guys was that 76% of our respondents felt competent and confident with their skills.
Good.
So how does that make you feel? I was pleasantly surprised to hear that.
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
I love hearing that. I think all we have is ourselves. It starts with us, self-love, self-care, how we talk to ourselves. It does come out, it exudes in the work that we do. So I love hearing that number. I wish it was higher. I'd love to hear more. Yes, and I feel confident, and here's where I don't. I think it's important for us to understand, where are we lacking the confidence? Where are we lacking the competencies? And it's important for us to learn and grow. Samantha, you said it earlier, the lifelong learners. If you're not feeling confident or competent, then what can you do? How can you champion yourself? How can you learn and grow so that that number can come up? I'd like to see that number a lot higher, especially in females.
Okay, well, we'll see in the next survey. So from the Q&A, this person wants each speaker to share your one best secret to female empowerment. So who wants to start with that?
I could start, ladies. Oh no, good. Samantha, go. Nope,
Oh.
Samantha, go.
I guess just the first thing that popped into my mind is find your tribe. Find other like-minded females that are powerful and inspirational and creative and support each other. Talk more with them, outside of work or whatever it might be. Lift each other up. But I think really being able to do that and connecting with other females that are empowered and strong and that we admire each other, our peers, whoever that might be, is yeah, developing those relationships a little bit more with like-minded females.
Okay, that sounds great.
Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask. Just and make change and take those risks.
I love
That's
questions.
great.
And I would say my superpower is positivity all the way. Everyone I come across, I find something positive. They may be saying 10 things, I will always find the positive and always there to be supportive. That's how I feel I lead my life every day as an empowered woman, and that's what I like to spring on others, always being positive.
Mhm. Even though sometimes it might not be easy to to project that positivity.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys too, we're talking about issues of gender equality and getting along. Do you get along with men and women equally professionally? What is there a difference, and what is that difference between female colleagues or male colleagues? Does anyone see anything different?
I don't. I feel like if you are yourself all the time, no matter who you come across, you're gonna be treat everybody equal. I mean, and I know there's always that sidebar on that, but I don't think you should treat women different from men. I think everybody wants to be treated with respect
Mhm.
and wants to know that you are giving them your thoughts. Be trustworthy and be accountable for what you say, whether it's a male or female.
I think
That
the
sounds
biggest
good.
thing when I turned 40, it was one of these things. I had been in a very male dominated kind of environment. And I went, I'm not going to do this anymore and decide I'm not going to be subservient. And I came to the table and I sat there and I'm like, damn it, I am 40 years old and I do not need to pretend. And again, being genuine and being your true self. And Samantha, tribe. I love that.
Yeah, that's
Truly.
very true.
Yeah, some wonderful, amazing,
Yeah.
strong females in our
Absolutely.
industry. I'm very thankful to call my friends as well.
Absolutely.
So someone in the chat is also, since you were talking about your empowerment, your idea of empowerment, um, do you have to first understand what that means for someone else before you can work with them to provide them with what they need? I mean, is the idea of empowerment different from woman to woman?
That's a good
Yeah,
question.
that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, we all look at what empowers us. We all look at, power in general differently. What does power mean to somebody? What does that look like between individuals? So, for example, it can be, okay, this person speaks up a lot. She says what's on her mind. Like she's just very blunt, not cutting corners. That could be empowering to somebody. It could be somebody else that's, really great in sales and they, hit their marks, surpass them and, build their business huge. It could be somebody that's, generally likable and lovable to, their work, their industry, and that's a form of power as well. So I really do like that question. So yes, it is something different for everybody. But I think in general, it has a lot to do with being comfortable and confident of who we are and being able to show that to people, not holding back or thinking that you have to act some way or look some way or say something that may not be genuinely who you are or how you feel. Being able to say, this is who I am. Yes, I have, pink in my hair. Yes, I, got divorced. Or yes, I ate a whole pizza last night, whatever it might be. You just own who you are. And I think that's empowering to ourselves, in my opinion.
And I think it's important to ask people, what's your superpower? What would you say your superpower is? And then hear them. And then maybe share with them what you perceive their superpower to be as well. So again, going back to the positivity, but it's really asking them the question. I found that a lot of women don't know what their superpower is. Like they don't realize what they're great at. And it's great for you as an associate or even a friend or a confidant to share with them. I hear what your superpower is. I look at you as being very resourceful. I know I can count on you for ABC. So I think it's finding out from them what their superpower is and maybe also offering them what you see their superpower as well.
Tracy, what you just said, I was at a conference where there were 8 women. We were all together and we've known each other in the industry for a great period of time. Going back to Samantha saying your tribe, it's my tribe. And we were all together. And one of the women did pose that question, what's your superpower? And that was something that was so enlightening and then also and empowering of what other people perceive you to be. And it's sort
Right.
of, it builds that foundation. And then we all ended up crying. And
Yeah.
that is a gift.
Yes, it is. I say that again, Megan, because I think that's so huge for all women to hear. Vulnerability.
Being
Brene
vulnerable is
Brown.
a huge gift.
Yes, Brene Brown, Power of Vulnerability. If you haven't read that book, read it. I have read it 4, 5, 6 times. I can't get enough of it. There
Yeah.
is nothing wrong with being vulnerable. And I do have a male friend that says, I wish I was female so I could be vulnerable. I said, well, why don't you start the trend now as a male to be vulnerable? Because there are so many men like you that would love for someone to kick it off. So I think that's an excellent point right there. I love that you guys are vulnerable with one another. That's great.
That sounds good. There's another perspective in the chat from somebody who works better with men rather than women, who feels that a woman in a position of power can even not, maybe not intentionally, but uh, you know, diminish other women to promote herself. I don't know if this is something that you have seen. Um, Uplifting other women is not always demonstrated among us, among women. So it's good that you have experienced this.
Yeah, I have, and it's set me back a good 3, 4 years with PTSD. It was another woman. We were peer to peer. Then she became my boss at some point in my career. I'm not gonna divulge when. And it was a personal attack on me. It was a personal attack on my character. At least I felt that at the time. When I look back now, again, we talk about mentor coaches. I had a great coach, and the coach said, look in the mirror. When somebody says something to you that bothers you, look in the mirror and ask yourself, how is this hitting me? Why is this hitting me? I found a lot of what this person or this particular individual did to me. Part of it was I wasn't being honest or truthful to myself. I wasn't following, I would tell somebody to do something, I wasn't following it myself. So I feel that always go introspection, always look at yourself and see, but silence is power in any room. And if somebody says something that bothers you, one of the first things I said is, so did you ask me if I was ABC? I ask him the question again, because what I read recently is when somebody says something to you and you ask them to say it again, they may hear what they're saying at that point. So ask them to repeat it and don't speak at all. No matter how much you want to attack them, don't. That's an ego thing. Attacking is an ego trait. Let your ego fall to the side. The moment you ask them to repeat themselves, 9 times out of 10, hey, look, and if they're going to repeat themselves, then just be silent. Don't address it. Silence is powerful.
Good point. I think that's a good point for maybe a younger generation who they maybe work in an office. I mean, a lot of people are remote, so maybe not encountering these things on a daily basis. But certainly the memory of it. So does anyone else have anything
Practice
else
the
to say?
Gen
Yeah.
Z stare.
It's like my daughter. That was perfect right there.
Oh yeah. Same thing for my daughters. So if anyone has anything else to say, somebody else is saying, yes, Tracy, spot on with the PTSD, nearly 3 years after my horror boss. So yeah, I mean, I think we've all had one or two. So that's good to know. Thank you.
And then Lisa, one thought on that.
Mhm.
Let it go.
Mhm.
I am a survivor of breast cancer, just 6 months in from, or 4 months in from my original diagnosis. And that is the biggest lesson I can teach all of you on this call today. Let it go. I always say it's like being on a bus. I have all the people that have done wrong to me on a bus. They don't know they're on the bus. Only I know they're on there. And that bus is derailing every day because I carry with it all the burdens of my past. So the past is the past, the future is the future, the present is that. It's a gift. Just stay in the present and let the past go.
Oh, Tracy,
It will hurt you.
thank you so much, and congratulations on
Thank you.
your completing the treatment and being cancer-free.
Thank you.
Okay, and that's a very good way to leave it. And thank you so much for joining us, you three, Megan, Samantha, and Tracy. And I think I'm getting a lot of congrats, and it was great. Thank you. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and I certainly got a lot out of it. I hope you did too. And so thanks everybody, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Have a great end of the
Thank
week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.